Gotta love local music, man. Cool Under Pressure featuring Sammy Lee Jones, Mavis Braga. This one is titled Panga, man. Good morning. No,
why you cutting the song exactly?
And again, that's what luister julle almal vir my mos. Because you're expecting the song to pick up.
Cool Under Pressure.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Moro Maria.
Good morning.
How are you?
I was waiting for you to greet her in German.
I know we're speaking. Now we are speaking Norwegian. You don't know. I'm trying to remember how to greet in that language. It's gone. Anyway, guys, before we get into our official business for this morning, we've got some breaking news that we need to share with you.
Yeah. Well, we just got a report. There seems to be contradictory information. The police is reporting that 2 people were killed at, I believe it's a Patululo village in the Angwena region. They are in search of the suspect, who is said to be in his mid-20s. The police version is that he killed 2 people, his mother and his 3-month-old niece, meaning his sister's child. But family at the crime scene are saying, in fact, it's 3 deaths. The suspect's mother, his older brother, and his 3-month-old niece. 2 were also injured, 2 children. But to add to that, he also killed the family dog and 8 goats.
Is there any information as to what caused the suspect?
It's not clear. The police is still, at the time of reporting this, which was when I last checked, the police is still searching for him. So it's not clear what caused it, but it happened in the early hours of this morning.
Sure. Sad news so early and on Tuesday morning. Sincerely hope that the police catch the suspect. That he gets apprehended, as soon as possible.
Before he does any further
damage. And condolences to the families out there.
And on Informanté side, we will keep you updated as we get all our information together and our ducks in a row. We will inform the public. It is a developing story. We just needed to put that out there so that the public is aware.
Yes, so keep checking out Informanté's Facebook page, also the website, and we'll keep you updated on the story as it develops.
And Twitter.
I keep forgetting about Twitter.
Yeah.
we don't Twitterati like you. We're still old school, very Facebook-y.
Maria is the boss of Twitter.
Actually, I was just crowned.
Tuva Wolf.
I was actually just crowned. Thank you very
much. Crowned like what?
The top 10, number 1. Most influential person on Twitter, Namibia.
Sorry toch.
It's an unofficial list.
We are in the midst of great Rati royalty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Oh man, it's going to be an interesting morning. Well, guys, as we had promised you earlier, or as we've been promising you since last week, we have a special guest in the studio with us this morning. And Neville, I think I'll give it to you to introduce him.
Oh, Mr. Theo Mujoro, representing the Electoral Commission of Namibia, ECN. It is such an honor and a pleasure to welcome you to our studio. Moro.
Moro miture.
It's my wapenduka. Dasi.
Wapenduka
now.
Okay.
Opombo.
Is it Mr. Theo or Theo?
Theo.
Theo.
And
Whichever you prefer.
Okay. I need him corrected. It's Mr. Theo.
Please,
End of debate.
please tell this Herero it's Mujoro, not Mujoro.
Correct. Exactly.
Yes, guys, I'm sure you guys have had a lot of questions. There's so much news circulating surrounding the elections, which are happening on the 27th of this month, 27th of November. So, yes, we have Mr. Mujoro here in the studio with us, and we are going to have a comprehensive discussion surrounding the elections this year. So, once again, Mr. Theo, good morning. Welcome to the Morning Mix.
Good morning. Very good morning to your listeners as well. Is it viewers or listeners?
Viewers and listeners. Yeah.
Thanks for having me on your show.
We are moving in a very exciting period of our country. So many things happening, and the ECN basically stands flat in the middle of everything that happens politically in our country at the moment. I think to get our show started, Theo, maybe you must just update us as to how's the electoral process been going. I think in the last couple of months.
Thank you very much, Neville, colleagues, for the opportunity. I think we have done a lot of things. Let me start by saying that when we are preparing for any election, we put together what we call an electoral calendar. The calendar basically outlines all the key milestones in terms of the projects and sub-activities, and it outlines all the important things that ought to happen in the build-up to the day of elections. In this particular case, since it's national elections, we already put together a very comprehensive electoral calendar, which was approved by the Commission towards the end of last year already, 2018. You would know that we have had a very successful supplementary registration of voters process, which was completed during the month of July. Following that, we also completed the nomination process. This process started on the 1st of October, and it was completed on the 18th of October, which was the cutoff day. In fact, at the end of the nomination process, we can now tell the Namibian nation that we have 11 candidates contesting the presidential elections. In addition to that, we have now 15 political parties contesting for the National Assembly elections. Now, I must also add here that a lot of things are happening behind the scenes in terms of checking our election materials to make sure that everything is in a proper functioning order, to make sure that we have all the equipment in the right quantities and all of that. We are also doing a lot in the area of training the polling officials.
Right.
You would appreciate that it's really a huge project in terms of the scope and the magnitude. We are looking at recruiting close to 16,000 individuals who will be performing duty in various constituencies in all of our regions at different levels in different localities. So it's really it's a very intense project when you look at the sheer numbers. But I must tell you that as the chief administrator of this process, where I sit right now, I think I'm sitting pretty, I'm comfortable. We have done what we are supposed to do to ensure that at the end of the day, we can deliver a credible election process. So really a lot of things are happening.
All right. Before we get into nitty-gritties, the ECN released information on the total number of registered voters.
Yeah.
I know it's a very difficult figure. Do you have like just a rough estimation?
Yes. I must first mention that the National Voters Register, we view it as a necessary precondition. You need to have a credible National Voters Register before you can claim the conduct of a successful election process. For that reason, as I've stated earlier, we have conducted the supplementary registering process back in July, where we have captured close to 270,000 voters. Of that number, some of them were people who have turned 18 years since the year 2015, when we had the last similar national exercise. Some of them are people who came to be registered because they have changed their residential address. Others are people who came to register because maybe they lost their voter card, the voter card got damaged, that sort of thing. Now, I must tell you that this last Sunday, we have released to the Namibian nation the final numbers in terms of breakdowns per region, per constituency, in terms of the gender representation at all levels. But not only that, we are also able to aggregate the data on our National Voters Register in terms of telling you how many millennials are there, how many born-frees do we have. We can aggregate our data to the smallest detail. Now, in total, I don't have the figures here in front of me, but our final National Voters Register right now stands at around 1.3 million.
Plus, is that the highest we've ever had?
Yes, because you need to keep in mind that your National Voters Register grows in sync with your population.
Yes.
Okay? So it can never go backward. It can only increase as the years goes by. But I must state here that the Voters Register is a living document because at any given point in time, you must remove duplicates. Any person who may have been registered twice, because it does happen. When we do our voters registration in the field, we operate stand-alone systems. It's not a networked kind of system, whereby if I register at Yanmore and then I go and register at NAST, whereby I can be picked instantly as a double entry. But the moment you consolidate your data from the field, you can instantly detect one person appearing twice, because we have a special capability that we call the automatic fingerprint identification system. It's a biometrics registering process. Therefore, we are able to match the fingerprints of every individual voter on our voters register against the rest of the voters. And by so doing, you can instantly detect any duplicate entries. And then you can just remove them manually. What we also do as part of our integrity checks on the voters register, we make sure that we receive records of deceased persons from the Ministry of Home Affairs so that we can then match them against our database. If deceased persons happen to be registered voters, they can then also be removed from the register. So it's a continuous process, but we try to make sure that when it is gazetted publicly on the 6th of November, 2019, that we would have done the best we can to make sure that we present to the Namibian public a register that is credible, a register that is acceptable, based on which we can conduct the forthcoming national elections. So I think we have done everything we could to make sure that it's credible, it's presentable, it's as accurate as possible.
While we are on the issue of voter registration, so the registration of voters is obviously closed now. We're just a couple of weeks out from the election day. So is there a remedy for individuals who perhaps between registration and now the voting date lose or somehow get their voter cards damaged?
Yes, we do have arrangements for that. We know that when you look at the period between the 27th of July, which was the cut-off period for registration, and the 27th of November, it's quite a period.
It's a long day.
A lot of things can happen in that intervening period. Somebody's card getting, grabbed or whatever the case may be. Somebody's card getting damaged. So the law provides for, if you are a registered voter and you have a valid voter card, and you happen to lose your card or it's damaged, you can go to the nearest police station. You make a declaration under oath describing the circumstances under which you lost your voter card. With that statement, you can approach our offices here in Windhoek at our head office, and we can instantly produce a duplicate voter card. Let me also mention here that at this point in time, this arrangement is only centralized in Windhoek. But you see, we have realized that it is totally unfair to expect somebody sitting in Katima Molilo, or in Ariamsvlei, or in Shakati, or in Opuo, to travel the distance from where they live to Windhoek just to obtain a voter card. It really doesn't make sense. What we are doing right now, and we know that the demand for duplicate voter cards is going to increase as we reach closer to the day of polling. We are going to decentralize this, our logistics, so that at least in each of our regional capitals, if you lose your voter card, you can simply go there. We will have the National Voters Register on a single device, on a database, so that once you get there with your statement from the police, we can retrieve your profile, check your details, and print your card instantly. And we would be announcing publicly exactly when that facility will be available. But I think our target is anywhere from 15th going forward, because we know from experience, 2 days before the day of polling, people will be flocking our offices. We also know that it is a great inconvenience for political parties, but also for families, to drive people all the way down to Windhoek from wherever they live just to obtain voter cards. So we are decentralizing this, and I think it will go a long way in really assisting Namibians who want to participate in this all-important democratic process, and who, for one or the other reason, happen to lose their voter card. So that's what we are doing, in as far as that is concerned.
All right.
Theo, no, you go.
Theo, not Theo.
Yes, please.
My neighbor. He's allowed to call me whatever.
So the past 2 weeks,
yes,
I think we've seen the ECN has really been in the spotlight. Right? I'm not exaggerating. It's all everybody's talking about.
Yes.
More specifically, the EVMs. I think that's a burning issue. It's still under discussion. There seems to be different opinions from different sides of the spectrum. What is the... I understand they want a paper trail. What is ECN's position right now? And I know there was even a demonstration over the weekend.
Thank you very much. I'm glad that you are raising this particular issue. It's an issue that, excuse me, that I have to deal with on an hourly basis. And I think as an institution, we have tried the best we can to explain to our public, to our political parties, the issues around the electronic voting machines, but also the issues around the two different concepts. The one is a voter verified paper audit trail. It's a VVPAT in short. The other one is the concept of a paper trail. Now, we have told our parties and our stakeholders that at this point in time, we are not in a position to roll out the VVPAT technology. Now, let me state to you here that as an institution, we like the VVPAT technology. Why? For a simple reason that because our voting method is electronic, the VVPAT gives a voter the peace of mind, because when you come to cast your vote, if you press the button next to your candidate or your party and you confirm your vote, what the VVPAT does, because it's connected exactly just below the ballot booth, in privacy behind on the ballot unit, it's connected between the ballot unit and the control unit. But of course, you do your voting in privacy.
Yes.
So what it does, once you make your selection, it prints a small piece of paper, which is visible through a glass opening. You see it for 7 seconds, it cuts off and it falls into like a ballot box.
All right.
So it is a good thing, because at the point of voting, as a voter, I am able to see for myself
a
written confirmation of my vote. Because if I press a button, I wouldn't know what is the electronic process of according my vote to my candidate or my party. So we want it. Why not? We want it. But we are saying we are a responsible election management body. And therefore, whatever technology we roll out to the Namibian public in our process, we need to make sure that it's robust, it's reliable, there are no defects and all of these things. Now, we say that what we have seen in India, because our machines are manufactured in India, and for that reason also, the VVPAT device that we are talking about here, what the version and the prototypes that we have seen in India, we were not happy with them because we had seen instances where when you press your button and you confirm your vote, the device could not speak to the electronic voting machine because it's technology. These things are bound to happen. It's simply not communicating. We have seen instances where the device showed a paper gem, because you need to keep in mind that any device or a gadget that utilizes a printing mechanism to print a piece of paper, it is susceptible to paper gems. Now, a paper gem in a printer on your desk in your office and a paper gem in a voting booth presents two different dilemmas. Because if there is a paper gem in a voting booth, what that means is that people must come to try and resolve the problem. And in the process of doing that, the secrecy of the vote of the voter can be compromised. We don't, and I don't think we want to expose our voters to those kinds of possibilities. In addition to that, we have also noted that a voter would come in the voting booth because it's only themselves inside that space. They cast their vote, they press the button, and then the machine prints, the VVPAT prints. And then for the one or the other reason, they just decide to cause drama by saying that the slip that was printed is not the selection that I made on the ballot unit. So as the Electoral Commission, how are you going to solve that problem? That person was alone in a voting booth. They could be lying. Either they want to discredit or just frustrate the process. And they will swear to God that what was printed was not my selection. How do you resolve a scenario like that one? So there were a number of scenarios that we had looked at. And we said, but also when you look at the errors, the sheer errors that we noted from this particular technology. You know, in India, the voting population is more than 500 million people who votes. So when you talk about even 10,000 problems from the VVPAT, it may be a drop in the ocean to them, insignificant. But when you talk about the similar amount of errors observed from a VVPAT device in a Namibian context, that amount of errors could constitute a seat in the National Assembly. So in terms of the impact it would have on our process in its totality, we have put all these things together, and then we said, let's take a responsible decision to say that, by the way, Namibians, political parties, we agree it will add value to our process in terms of enhancing openness and transparency and the peace of mind on the part of our voters. However, we don't think it would be a good thing for us, given what we have seen, to roll it out in our process at this point. Now, let me add something else. Our political parties make a lot of pronouncements and a lot of statements. By nature, politicians make statements. However, as administrators of elections, we don't have the luxury of making statements, whatever statements we like. But clearly, when you listen carefully to some of the things that our parties are saying, it clearly stems from a position of lack of information and lack of knowledge and understanding of these systems. Because they are technical, and if you don't have inside knowledge, you may mix up things. That is why I want to mention the fact that there is a difference between the voter-verified paper audit trail technology, that device, and the concept of a paper trail. I can tell you on record, while your listeners are listening, that the electronic voting machines that we use in our elections at this point in time have got the full capability of producing a paper trail.
Okay.
But our parties will tell you that, no, we don't want these EVMs because there's no VVPAT and there's no paper trail. We want a paper trail. You get what I'm saying? So clearly people are mixing up things. People don't take the time to carefully analyze things before they make these statements. So I want to repeat again that our EVM machines in their current format can produce a paper trail.
If there's a dispute.
If there is a dispute. In other words, if the results generated by a particular EVM at a particular polling station, for whatever reason are in dispute, any competent court in Namibia can order the Electoral Commission to produce a paper trail from that particular EVM. The paper trail contains this information, basically. It will clearly show, by the way, each EVM can process a maximum of 2,000 votes, okay? In other words, each EVM can produce a clear account in terms of the first voter who cast their vote on the machine, which party or which candidate did they vote for? The second voter, who did they vote for? Until you get to the very last vote processed on that particular machine. And that can be a very detailed, clear account in the event of a dispute. Now, let's go. You want me to talk about the missing EVMs?
Yes.
Wait, come there.
No, wait. Yeah, I'm also going to get to the comments.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask while we are still on the EVM, before we get to the trailers. So the paper trail that is produced by our current EVMs is not voter verified.
No. Because there's a difference depending on how you understand it or how you look at it. The VVPAT allows the voter at the point of casting the vote to be able to see and verify. But of course, the other one, voters or stakeholders can only verify once the paper trail is printed.
Yeah.
So the difference, I think, is in terms of the time at which verification is possible.
Okay. No, because I'm thinking, look, because one of the bones of contention sort of is, if the EVM, let's say, assigns my vote to the person, not the person that I voted for, once the list comes out, I'm not going to be able to say I was voter number 1,203, so that vote is not what I voted for. So that's sort of what I was trying to get at with the voter verification.
No, yes. Okay, good question. I think in this case, I don't think the results will be disputed by an individual voter. It could be the party agents. It could be political parties. That for one or the other reason, maybe somebody could say that I know that in this village of Oshovakwe Nambura, I know my people here.
There's no way.
A big majority of them belong to me, to my party. There is just no way in hell that they would have voted the other way. So we are disputing the results on this particular machine at this polling station. We are going to court so that the court can order the commission to generate a paper trail. That's the scenario I'm talking about.
Okay. Are the EVMs connected to the internet?
No.
Okay, so
I want to tell you that the EVMs utilizes basic technology.
There's no sugar.
It doesn't even come close to a smartphone, let alone an iPad. Your desktop is like a calculator.
Okay.
Not even that.
Tamagotchi.
That Katharu. It really utilizes basic technology, just like your calculator, just to add up numbers. And once it is commanded to do so at the end of the election process, to generate a result. Just like you put 1 and 1 together and then you press the, what is it? Equals to, and then you can see on the display screen of your calculator the result of that particular function.
Okay.
So it doesn't have that capability. It's not high tech. It doesn't even come close to that. You cannot communicate with the EVM with another electronic device remotely without having some physical connection to the EVM.
Okay.
So they are totally standalone systems. They are calculators.
Right. Trailer.
Okay, let's bring in the public. I'm sure they're going to ask about the trailer.
No, the public will ask.
I'm just trying to mitigate already because I know them.
I know.
All right, let's start at the top. Alfredo, Jack Evangelista. Cubase Kuapa smartphone. I lost my 8 man.
Yeah.
Mike saying good morning. Rochelle Klassen, one question for him. Please, can the machines pick up when someone votes more than once? That's one of the questions. Nadine Benz, hoekom kyk die man so rond asof hy nie vir ons die waarheid wil vertel nie?
It's an unfamiliar environment.
Yes. Travulwa Shapuko, talk about the lost EVMs. You Harambe puppets have open case. Okay, I don't know if you're talking about us or our guest, but either way, we do not appreciate that comment. Makwa van Makwa, I really want to understand one thing, whether EVMs really boarded in a trailer. If yes, which type of trailer was it? Shirks Shambeni, the lost EVMs, what's the status on them? Okay, maybe let's just talk about that before we get into...
I want to respond to the one of double voting.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think it's a fair question on the part of that particular... Are they viewers or listeners, your audience?
Both.
Both?
Yeah. Both.
Okay, no, both. Let me stop looking around too much. So I know that that question really comes from, we had an incident when we had a by-election in Oshakati East constituency a few months back. What has happened there is that it was indeed confirmed that one of the voters voted twice. This is what happened in a minute. You know, when you get to a polling station, there are various steps that you need to go through before you cast your vote and you leave. Equally, we have a number of polling officers executing different functions. One of them is called a ballot issuer. This person sits with a control unit, which is one of the components of the EVM, because there are two, control unit, ballot unit. So the ballot issuer pressed a button, issued the vote electronically. The person in the queue went behind the ballot booth. While that person was busy voting, casting her vote, one of the things that the ballot issuer is expected to do is to get the voter card from the next person in the queue, take down their voter's registration number on a register book before they can then also go and vote. So what has happened is that the person is voting, the ballot issuer becomes distracted by the next person on the line. And then the next moment, the ballot issuer asked the person behind the booth, "Did you vote?" The person said, "No, I did not vote." Okay? Of course, there was a confusion on the part of the ballot issuer, but also on the part of the voter, very clearly. Because people don't vote every day. So it is expected that some amount of confusion could arise within a polling station. So, but the party agents who were observing the process noted that the EVM machine, it usually gives a long beep sound. And when that sound goes off, it's a signal that a vote has been cast and deposited. So they said that, no, we heard the beep sound, that person had voted. So, but when the ballot issuer asked the voter, "Did you vote?" and then the voter said, "No, I did not vote," the ballot issuer issued another ballot, and the person voted a second time. Now, what we are saying is that the fact that an individual managed to vote twice during the Oshakati East constituency by-election has nothing to do with the robustness or the reliability of the electronic voting machines.
But it shows human error.
Sorry? It's a human error.
And we're saying if it is that it's human error and nobody's disputing the quality, how susceptible are you to this human error?
Let me say something. And I want to equate the electronic voting machines to the manual balloting system that people are talking about. Let's revert to manual ballot papers. I can tell you that the same way that somebody was able to vote twice because it was a human error, and we were able to confirm that. We did not even hide it. Okay? Similarly, a person can also vote twice. It's possible during a manual ballot paper election process, whereby the person that gives the ballot paper, the manual ballot papers, could inadvertently tear off 2 ballots at the same time and hand them to a voter. It could happen even during a manual ballot paper or voting system. So that is why I'm saying it had nothing to do with the technology that we use in our voting process. It was an unfortunate human error.
That can happen.
That's the kind of incident it was. So just to answer the question about double voting, no, it should not happen. It should not happen. But human beings, being what we are, prone to lapses, lack of focus, whatever the case may be, poor training in certain instances, these things are bound to happen.
All right.
Yes.
Onto the trailer, please. He was about to get into that.
Somebody even asked here, John Aigonya, he said, who was that driver of that vehicle? What is the name of the driver of that vehicle who towed the trailer? Those are just passing by comments.
I know.
It's no need to answer.
I live in that space. I read those things all the time.
Okay. Yeah. Can we? Okay. So on the EVMs that fell off the trailer.
This is what happened.
Yeah.
Back in the year 2017, we were approached by the SWAPO Party Elders Council. Is one of the structures of the SWAPO Party. They wrote to us, to our former director, Professor Isaac, we want to borrow X number of EVMs and tabulators and printers. Why? Because we have an internal voting process of in the Elders Council. This election process was supposed to take place in Utapi, Musati region. Now, I want to mention here that this party was not the first party to whom we have loaned electoral equipment or material. It is a long-standing tradition. It's a practice of the Electoral Commission because, you see, the Electoral Commission is the only entity, only institution in this country that has got ballot boxes, for example. Do you have ballot boxes here at Trusco? I don't think so.
Yeah.
What do you do with them?
We have top 40.
But for that reason, we have unique equipments that are used to facilitate voting processes. But we have also said that let's help these entities, whether it's church organizations, whether it's trade unions, whether it's political parties, with this equipment, because strategically it contributes to voter education.
Yes.
Especially in the light of the misgivings that people have around the usage of EVMs in national elections. For us, it was of a strategic importance that we loan these things to political parties so that they can use them in their own election processes. Yes. Because the moment you do that, you will enable them to build confidence in the use of such technology. So it is for that reason why, as an institution, we have been doing that.
Right.
We have done it with NUDO, we have done it with the UDF, many other organizations and trade unions. So that is what happened back in 2017. Now, I must admit that there were a number of breaches in terms of applying our security protocols. One of which was when an organization comes to loan this kind of equipment, as the Electoral Commission, you must commit to provide transport, but also staff members, because no one except ECN officials can actually administer those machines, can operate them. Nobody else outside our building can do that. But we were supposed to provide transport and officials to go and assist this political party with that process. Unfortunately, it was an oversight on our part as the Electoral Commission. We have written a very detailed statement explaining what I'm trying to say now. It's out there in the public sphere. Okay? So what has happened is that because of this lapse, we have asked the SWAPO Party's Elders Council to commit to providing transport. Okay? And we have asked them to commit also in writing that they will take responsibility in terms of ensuring that our equipment will be there will be safe custody.
Yeah.
They will be transported in a manner that meets our standards, and they will be brought back to the ECN without issues. Unfortunately, these things, it's not a joke when we say things were transported in a trailer. That's what happened. But I think it was also because of the sheer numbers. I think we're talking about close to 156 EVMs. I think around 60 printers and a few tabulators and so forth. So it was quite a bulky kind of consignment. Okay, these things were transported on a B1, obviously, to Utapi, and in the process, because of negligence, how else do you call that? It's negligence, both on the part of the ECN to allow an external entity to transport this equipment, but also sheer negligence on the part of those who were interested in collecting and transporting this equipment to Utapi for loading them, this sensitive equipment, in the manner that they did. So we are not bidding about the bush on this matter. That is what happened. That is why a member of the public found one EVM unit a few kilometers before Oshiwarongo. This person, we're grateful to him for being a responsible citizen. They took this EVM unit, gave it in at the police station in Oshiwarongo. I think a day or two later, another piece of the EVM was also found near Mixed Settlement here, just outside Windhoek. So this is what happened. And we are saying that in our statement that we have informed the Namibian nation about the number of ballot units that remain missing because of that unfortunate incident. We have shared with the Namibian public the serial numbers of each of these 2 ballot units. Similarly, we are also missing 4 control units. And we have also shared publicly the serial numbers. And by the way, let me also add that because these equipment are serialized, it is for a reason, so that you can tighten the security safeguards around the management of this equipment. That is why we are saying that there is no way in hell anybody can introduce back into the electoral process the EVMs units that are missing to date.
Yes. So, Mr. Theo, do you understand perhaps why there might be some issues with the public? Because then, for example, the ECN then says we've taken this matter to the police, or we've registered it. The Inspector General comes and contradicts you, and then there was the Ministry of Finance again contradicting the payment issue.
I can explain that whole situation.
Yes, please do.
Can I do that?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Let me tell you and your viewers and listeners that 3 things happened in the immediate aftermath of this very unfortunate incident. First of all, I've mentioned that a member of the public collected one EVM. It was handed in at the police in Oshiwarongo. I am sure that the police in Oshiwarongo at that station have an administrative way of processing something like that. A sensitive equipment like that one, picked on the roadside. I'm sure they have an occurrence book or whatever they call it. And they took ownership of this equipment. Secondly, 2 staff members who were assigned by the Swapo Party's Elders Council at the time to collect this equipment from the ECN made statements under oath at the Namibian police. These statements were important because they had to describe exactly what happened and the extent of their involvement and the role they played when these things got missing. These statements are on file. We have them. 2 staff members. In fact, the one is the one that was driving this vehicle. The other one is somebody that was accompanying the one driving the vehicle. Thirdly, our former Director of Elections, Chief Electoral Officer, Professor Isaac, was in contact with high-ranking officials at the Namibian police about this matter at the time. Okay? However, it is now clear to us that even if all this incident occurred that I'm referring to, the member of the public, the statements by the 2 officials of the Swapo Party's Elders Council, the communications our former director had with top brass of the Namibian police. It has become clear now that no criminal case or no police case was actually registered. Okay?
There's no CR
what
number.
we have said, so there's no CR number. What we have said in our statement, which I signed myself personally, we have said that the matter is being investigated by the Namibian police. Why did we say that? Because in reference to what I have just narrated here, we were under a clear impression that for something like this, with so much significance to happen, and the conduct that was made with the Namibian police, one way or the other, some investigation must have been ongoing. That is what we have said. Okay? And nowhere did we say that a case was actually registered. We didn't say that. And I think the IG of the Namibian police was correct to say that as far as he's concerned, I have listened to his statement. There is no CR case opened, and that is true. So I don't know what is the lie about that. We have said the police was investigating the matter because clearly, based on what I have just said, that is the impression we had at the time as people in charge of this process.
So it's miscommunication.
Let me mention another one. I know that there was an article recently about the payment for these items.
Yes.
I can say it now again on record that the Swabo party have paid for this equipment. But of course, I did read that in terms of there are treasury regulations that needs to be followed when something like this happens, because these are state assets, they're state property. It is possible that on our part, some of these protocols may not have been followed, okay? But they have paid. How did they pay? At the receiver of revenue, that is my understanding. I have seen some paperwork to this effect. So I understand that for something like this to happen, there is a cost to the ECN, obviously, in terms of reputational damage. This is exactly what we are suffering as I speak. But I think in terms of speaking the truth about this matter, we have done the best we can through written word and spoken word. That is, there is nothing to hide about this incident. And you know what? Because my conscience is very clear about this issue, I feel comfortable discussing any detail whatsoever about this particular issue. So that's where we are.
There's a statement here that I would like you maybe to touch on a little bit from Elton Black. What's most concerning is the fact that so much time lapsed between the loss of the equipment and the disclosure to the public. It indicates a disregard for the voting public and a lack of accountability to the citizens of Namibia.
That person may have a point, but I would like to respectfully disagree. You know, when something like this happens, as a responsible organization concerned about the reputation, the integrity of the process, would you wake up the next morning and tell the public, hey, listen here, guys, we are missing 2 ballot units and 4 control units somewhere along the B1. If you see them, please do something about them. Wouldn't you carefully consider and weigh the options and make the best decision in terms of what would be right at that point in time? And perhaps allow for some investigations to take place? As I indicated, we were under that impression. You would pause for a moment to weigh a number of things. I don't think it is the same as picking a spoon or a shovel on the roadside. We're talking about electronic voting machines. They are used in a very delicate, sensitive process. So the decision at the time was that it may not be a wise thing to do at that point in time. To go public, you may attract unwanted attention. You may just find some unscrupulous guys deliberately just driving along the B1 with the hope of picking these items so that they can do whatever they may wish to do with them, to discredit the process, to frustrate the process for their own gain.
Have you recovered all the EVMs?
No, we have not.
All right.
We have not. That is why in our statement, and I've just said that, we are still short of 2 ballot units and 4 control units.
But they were paid for?
They were paid for, yes.
Right.
Okay, I've got two quick questions before we wrap up our conversation for this morning. The first one is a concern that seems to be resonating with some of the comments that are coming through. There are too many for us to go through all of them. But basically is why the ECN is insistent on using the EVMs in spite of opposition from some of the political parties and a large part of the public. And then the second one is you mentioned that our voter registration consists of about 1.3 million people. And it's only one day to vote. Do you have enough polling stations to accommodate this entire crowd, or are we going to stand in queues until the next day?
No, we won't. We won't. Yeah. Okay, I must say respectfully that there is a difference, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I live in a social media space. Facebook, I carefully analyze things. It's a very unregulated space where anything goes. Anybody say whatever they wish to say.
Fake news.
No problem. Democracy, perhaps. Why not? Let's do that. No problem.
Yeah.
But of course, I think it comes at a cost to public officials. Sometimes. Because, for example, myself, I don't think I can spend a day responding to some of those things there. I can't afford it.
Yeah.
But I think that is what happens. But I want to underscore the fact that, in my view, there is a difference between what is said and utterances and statements and pronouncements on social media and the reality out here on the street. There's a difference. I also disagree respectfully with the notion that there is an outcry, there is a bohai, the country is on fire, people don't like the EVMs. It is not true. Who says that? We had a rally which was organized just last weekend. People who are not happy with the EVMs, and we understand this. No problem. This group, in my estimation, was not more than 100 people. Would you say that that is representative of the general public? Where? Which public are you talking about? Who says that Namibians across the political divide all over are not happy with the EVMs? Who says that? But you see, as the Electoral Commission, we don't take the view that we are going to be hard-necked. We don't do that. We don't do that. But we say this, colleagues, we say this, that before the introduction of the EVMs in the year 2014, there were protracted consultations, negotiations with political parties, especially. I will tell you that the Electoral Commission at the time paid for a plane full of politicians representing political parties. Where to? To Bangalore, India. To do what? To check and satisfy themselves with the conditions under which the EVMs are manufactured, to look at the quality assurance issues. They have done that. They were there for about a week. But also to see the electronic voting machines being used in an actual election process. They were down there. The need to introduce or to consider introducing electronic voting was born out of experiences that we have had as a country, as stakeholders, as a collective, in past elections, in terms of our ability to count and announce election results at polling stations.
Yeah, if you delay, they complain.
They complain. Not only that, the very same, some of them, individuals who are saying down with the EVMs, are the very same individuals and political parties who were saying that there is ballot paper stuffing taking place at night when the mobile teams are moving from a particular polling station to the next one.
I recall.
The very same people are the very same people who are saying down with the EVM. Now, you see, we have great difficulty as a responsible institution, just because of these pronouncements, to now abandon a technology that was a product of a consultative process, where the taxpayers have invested close to $100 million Namibian dollars. We must just abandon it, put it aside in a dustbin, go back to the problems and the challenges where we're coming from. Would that be responsible on our part? Hell no, it's not. It's not responsible. That is why, and we are not arrogant about this, we want to be presented with facts. We want to see what is the case against the EVMs. I can also go further to tell you that since the inception, in terms of the usage of this technology, We have never had a single incident, my friends, where the results generated by a particular machine were in dispute. None whatsoever, except the one incident at Oshakati's constituency. So this is the reality of this whole thing.
And just before we close off, I also just wanted to know, and I need clarity, I know what your position is, but maybe so that the public, the machines being hacked, was there a call for the parties to come and see if they can hack those systems?
Thank you for reminding me. You see, recognizing the concerns raised by our political parties, we have said, let's actually organize a hacking session, for a lack of a better term, whereby we can invite our political parties in an open setting. We were prepared to have it streamlined on Facebook and on social media platforms, so that what was going to happen was the following. They would all come on a particular day. We take them to our storage facilities where we store our machines. They can randomly pick any given number of EVMs, bring them at an open setting with public and a full media. What was going to happen was the following. We would vote, a mock polling vote, so that, let's say there are 60 or 50 people. We will all vote, okay? And we will make sure that there are people who are monitoring the voting process and recording to which fictitious candidate any voter would be voting for.
Yes.
So that at the end of the process, the voting mock poll, there is no dispute in terms of how the votes were cast.
Yeah.
So that we can all agree that this is how they were cast, that is how they are announced on the machine.
They're accurate.
What was then going to happen is that we will generate the result and we will then give it to the political parties. This is the result to which we all agree because we were able to see. Please hack it. Please alter and amend those results so that we can see. Now, before the hacking session was supposed to be conducted, we had to agree on some ground rules. You know, my understanding of hacking or intercepting electronic systems is a remote, it ought to be happening remotely. I don't think it amounts to hacking if you tell the ECN, give me the EVM, allow me to open it, allow me to connect a foreign device to it, allow me to change the components of the EVMs so that I can then alter the results on a particular EVM. That is what the parties were insisting. For that reason, we said, no, that is not possible. Because you cannot change the basic functioning of a device and then you can claim hacking. You must hack it remotely. Send signals electronically to that so that you can change, you know? So that is what happened. As a result of that, they opted out of the hacking session, unfortunately. And for that reason, it didn't take place.
Now, since you mentioned, you know, having one-on-one time with the machine, actually, you know, opening it and plugging things out or plugging things in or whatever the situation may be. Obviously, they are stored in secure facilities at the ECN, but then you did mention that there are situations when you do borrow them to other parties. Like, for instance, the instance where we ended up with a couple of missing machines. So is it not possible then that during that time somebody can tamper with the machine or alter it?
Like I indicated, in terms of the security protocols and the standard operating procedures, what the incident of 2017 was a breach. It was a breach. At all material times, the machines must be with the full custody of ECN officials. Unfortunately, that is what happened. Let me now also add another thing. The machines that we loan to our political parties are machines that are ordinarily earmarked for voter education and training of polling officials.
So they
are not machines that are used in actual electoral processes.
All right. Yes. So they won't be using just in the event.
We would all the machines that were loaned to the Swabo Party's Electoral Council in 2017 would not be used in our process.
All right.
For that reason, all machines that we have loaned to all other institutions in the past would not be part of this actual electoral process because they are set aside, they are earmarked for voting, for voter education, and for training purposes. So these are the facts. finally, perhaps, about the whole EVM situation.
And speaking of voter education, just to wrap it up, what does the ECN have planned as far as educating the voters on how to use the EVMs properly?
Okay, you see, we say that to use the EVM, it's a very simple process. And we say that you find peasants and villages, everybody has got a cell phone. Operating a cell phone, either answering a call or sending a text, should be 100 times more complicated than pressing 2 buttons. Getting to behind the ballot booth, where we usually insert a ballot paper, and on the ballot paper, the details of your party or your candidates are there. You can clearly see them. You press the corresponding button, and then there will be a light with the button when you press it. Then you confirm your vote, and out you go. If you press this candidate or this party and you realize that I've made a mistake, you simply press it again so that you can deselect that button, and then you press the correct one, and then you confirm your vote. So in terms of the interface between the voter and the EVM, it is the simplest thing. But we are doing the best we can to make sure that people are comfortable. There are technology phobias and other things. We do the best we can to make sure that people can interact with relative ease with the EVM. But otherwise, it's really not complicated.
Bring
them on.
No, this is maybe on a much lighter note. Are there plans to introduce other, perhaps referendums? No, maybe not in this election, but maybe future elections on things like, for instance, legalization of marijuana, where we can vote at the polls?
Can you repeat the question? Can you repeat the question?
I've seen in international elections, right, in other countries.
But let's get you.
You come in, you vote for your presidential candidate, and then there's, I don't know if they call them referendums or whatever.
On abortion,
abortion,
yes or no, kind of Brexit type of things.
Yes, so is something like that also a possibility for Namibian elections?
No, what I can tell you is that the current electoral legislation allows for referendum on any particular issue. But of course, in terms of how an issue becomes a subject of a referendum, I'm not so sure how that happens, whether it's a parliamentary process or whether it can just also emanate from the general public, let's say on marijuana or on abortion or whatever, or death penalty, these type of things. But the electoral legislation can facilitate a referendum. That is why they call my title Chief Electoral and Referenda Officer. So the law provides for those type of things.
Did you ask that question for a friend or
for himself?
For yourself or
which one? The abortion or the marijuana?
No, the marijuana thing.
Okay, guys.
Wow.
Mr. Mujoro, thank you so very much for joining us this morning.
Get me in here every week until the day of elections. Let's discuss everything.
Okay.
We for a minute there we thought you were running away from
No. I'm cool. Our conscience is very clear. Yes, please.
No, I think for myself, Mr. Mujoro, I think you've answered a lot of questions that I had personally, and I think our show, today's show is one of the biggest hits again. I think in terms of the viewerships, I mean, I've just seen the amount of comments that we have. It's quite a burning topic. So, Mr. Mujoro, once again, thank you so much for coming in
very much.
at such short notice. But Maria, he made a pledge here that he's willing to come in every week.
No, certainly. Just 3 weeks, once a week,
hold
no
you
problem.
to it.
3 more times.
We'll definitely hold him to
we
it.
do elections.
So, any final words, Maria?
No, again.
Don't ask a question, just make a statement, please.
I wasn't going to
again, Jason, journalist,
I wanted to go to what you're saying, just reiterate also, just, thank you for being here. For me, it was also informative.
Yeah.
I'm not a know-it-all, by the way, so I like to learn as well, and it's been very insightful, and thank you for the transparency.
Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
All right, guys.
Wil je nog iets vragen? Wil je nog iets vragen?
Ons zal off-air praten. All right, guys. Thank you. It's actually a bit overwhelming, the amount of comments that are coming in. And I see some of you guys are asking questions about things that we did touch on in the beginning of the conversation. The video is still going to be up on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
We're also going to have slightly edited one that's going to come up a bit later on during the course of the week. So yeah, you can go watch the conversation again. And like Mr. Mujoro said, he's willing to come back. So, let's streamline the questions and that's on some weer, Biggie and Opa Boss next time he comes. Thank you, guys. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thanks, guys.
Catch us